Association and thank you for recording in progress. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
And thank you, Kate, for dealing with all our tech issues this morning. Give it up for Kate.
Hey, it can work. It's fine.
Again, welcome to the Worcester Public Library and our legislative breakfast. This morning, you're going to hear from quite a few speakers, so I'm going to move it right along and introduce our very first speaker to open up our morning. I'm going to introduce Mayor Joseph Petty, who is a fierce advocate for libraries, and I'm so excited that you're here to give us our opening remarks. Welcome, Mayor Petty.
I just want to welcome everybody here today. This is a great event. This is getting bigger every year, Jason. So I want to thank you for your leadership, and you can tell the leadership of the library, the whole team here does a great job. And it's great that we invested in this library several years ago. And when the city manager that Gus was here, he told me, Jordan, mind if we put money into the library, we did the whole renovation, and we did it. We did it together as a team. Do it by state delegation. We couldn't do anything without our state delegation. So I want to thank you for everything, your leadership here too. Of course, one of the best congressmen in the world, Jim McGovern. It's not an interest to really think about where other states, they're taking books out of libraries. They're taking people's rights away. We're not doing that here. And it's also one, I know everybody's going to introduce everybody, but Kenny Carlson is here, she had to take off to another event. And of course, Senator Chandler is here, and Senator Warren is was supposed to be here, but couldn't make it today too. So this is a great lineup, by the way. If I have an event, Jason, I'm putting you in charge. But enjoy it, listen to Vicky from Mass Libraries. That's what you're here for, and to understand what the issues are and what we need to fund here. So thank you for coming today, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mayor Petty. We are going to continue the Worcester contingent on, and I will add the key to a great event like this is having amazing staff. So I especially want to thank Kara Stone and Linnea Shelton, Soma Silva, and there's Peggy is also here. I have a number of staff that are attending. So the key is great staff, and I have them all and you cannot have them. Thank you. I will continue the Worcester contingent and introduce our city manager, Eric Batista.
Thank you, Jason. Totally agree. They have an amazing staff here. Who'll do an unbelievable job to keep this library going.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. Good morning and welcome. I just want to thank Jason for inviting me to speak this morning, and also for the incredible work you and your staff do every day, bringing diverse and inclusive collections, services, and resources to everyone in our city. I also want to thank everyone who has turned out this morning in support of our libraries. It shows the commitment of our public servants and elected officials to upholding the right to read for every member of our community. And here, as you can see, you have the elected leaders, the mayor, our delegation, our state delegation, our federal delegation, who do an unbelievable job supporting all of us on each and every day in our city. I'm excited to be here representing the city of Worcester and to advocate for sustaining the support that our libraries can continue to thrive and fulfill their core values and principles. I cannot stress enough the importance of libraries in our neighborhoods, helping to build community and providing important services to the residents in our city and throughout central Massachusetts. Just last week, I was proud to help to open the Buck O'Neill exhibit right behind me, currently being hosted here, and it is a great example of community building programs our library offers. Our focus today is on the theme of ensuring your right to read, ensuring your right to read. So it's fitting to invoke the word of Buck, who worked tirelessly for access and inclusion for others. Recently, reading access has been challenged all over the country, with LGBTQ+ and race-themed books in particular being targeted. These challenges conflict with the Worcester Public Library's mission. They conflict with the Worcester Public Library's mission to serve as a gathering place that actively promotes the free exchange of ideas in our democratic society. It is so important for all people to see themselves reflected in the library's collections, and we need to make it clear that censorship will not be tolerated. The library is doing its part to level the playing field by working towards digital equity and accessibility for all patrons. These principles of inclusion, equity, and accessibility are also priorities that guide our work across the city family. I support and will continue to support the wonderful library staff who work hard every day to improve the lives of every patron who walks through these doors. I also want to recognize the support of our libraries received from members of our community, particularly members of the Friends of the Worcester Public Library and the Worcester Public Library Foundation. Library funding is so crucial to all our residents. The resources the library provides to all of its patrons help to set them for success in all of their lives, and ensures that everyone has the right to read. Thank you very much in this morning, and enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. Now, I would like to welcome Congressman Jim McGovern, who is a fierce advocate for all of us, is a champion for hunger, libraries, and accessibility. And I want to thank you for joining us today.
Everybody, good morning, and I want to thank Jason and his incredible team for hosting us here today. And I want to recognize all of our local officials who are here. And I think Lieutenant Governor is on her way. And let me just say, I'm just so happy to be out of Washington, all of you. And in all candor, root canal is more fun than dealing with people that have been elevated to power, and it really is. It is. I know it's difficult to watch, but let me assure you, it's scary here in person when you're there. But I am most grateful to be with so many librarians staff who make the magic in these buildings like these possible. And it's an honor to be with all of you. Looking back on growing up here in Worcester, I remember coming to the library. I remember what a big thrill it was to get my library card. And I remember that the whole world was open to me when I came to this library, to learn about anything. Unfortunately, as a kid, I wish I used it more. But it's honestly remarkable the amount of knowledge available right here. And libraries all across my district, all across the state, all across the country. Books, newspapers, magazines, museum passes, and so much more, and a supportive team that helps young people and not so young people feel comfortable utilizing everything that is here. And long before we passed the bipartisan infrastructure law and pledged to improve internet access for all America's libraries, we're ahead of the curve, providing use of computers, printers, and new technologies to everyone, regardless of one's economic background. Libraries democratize information. Libraries facilitate learning, and libraries enrich our communities. And that's why it is especially unfortunate as we meet today that in many parts of this country, libraries and librarians are under attack because the truth is under attack. And look no further than attempts by some of the most powerful people in the country to ban books, to rewrite history, and censor anything that they don't agree with. Look at the attempts to pit parents against teachers, or to remove references to issues around LGBTQ issues, or simple historical facts about racism and slavery. It's become a race to the bottom in some places, and sadly, our libraries and librarians are caught in the crossfire. So I believe this is a time for all of us to rally around libraries, to stand against censorship, and to stand up for the magic that happens here. And that means that at every level, local level, the state level, and federal level, we need to do more to provide the resources and the support, not financial, but the local support to make it possible that libraries continue to thrive. And just so you know, I have my library card here too. I just pointed it out. I don't think I have any overdue books, but that's but I've been a long time supporter of libraries, and we need to use the federal kind of earmarking system to try to get more money to individual libraries, because some libraries are in more difficult shape in terms of infrastructure than others. And we just recently secured a major grant for the Jones Library in Amherst, which is in deep need of support. And so I'm here to say that to the libraries, to the librarians and to other staff, I want to thank you for always showing up for our neighbors in our community. Thank you for your persistence, especially during the pandemic. And thank you for being an invaluable resource to all of us. And I'll just close by saying that during this pivotal time in our nation's history, when knowledge is under attack, when facts are under attack, when science is under attack, I mean, you are going to be our savior. And so all of us who care about the truth need to step up and to back you stronger than ever before. So thank you for all that you do. I will do everything I can to support your efforts whenever you need me. And it's great to be with all of you. All the best. Thanks.
I will also mention you can get a brand new library card designed by some of our patrons as of next Monday. So we have a launch party of our new designs. So I will expect your attendance as well. Thank you. That's how you get stuff done now, so I appreciate it. I've also mentioned there's no longer fines. So even if you have a overdue, just bring it back and we'll be all set. Except maybe you probably wouldn't get fines. Next, I'm so thankful and excited with support of our governor and our lieutenant governor and our lieutenant governor for attending this breakfast this morning. We are honored to have you here as part of our legislative breakfast. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll.
Good morning, everyone. It's really a thrill to be with you. What a treasure to be in this space. You know, I was mayor in Salem for 17 years, and as part of being mayor, you also are in Salem. You're the chair of the Board of Library Commissioners. And I was always so proud that Salem ranked, 1 or 2 in highest circulation in our noble North of Boston Library Exchange network, despite the fact that we were in a very historic building, a former sea captain's mansion that had been turned into a library with 0 parking. And we used to say to the staff, it's really about all of you. Why we have this high circulation had to do with the fact that the people in the building were so helpful, so receptive, always there to meet your need, whatever crazy question it might be. And it was a space that always struck me as being, age friendly. From our youngest residents in our children's room running around and that experience, myself as a young mom and my kids, to our oldest residents and some of our more vulnerable residents, use that space, as Congressman McGovern just mentioned. And just thrilled to be with you, all of the delegation here, and the work we're doing to support what's happening on the ground. Libraries are vital to that quality of life we have in our communities, and such a treasured resource. Our residents rely on, certainly in my community and many others, on what the services that are provided in buildings like this across the Commonwealth, 360 libraries in Massachusetts. It's great to be in a state that was home to the first public library, but thinking about how we have libraries across the Commonwealth and how we can support them, and being those hardworking institutions that are the great equalizers. And as Congressman McGovern mentioned, now the defenders of freedom and democracy, and standing up for basic human values and rights that we treasure as a Commonwealth and as a country. So I want to echo the Congressman's thoughts and thanking you for everything that you're doing every day to make walking into this feeling put a smile on that person's face, and recognizing that day in and day out, there's more that we can do in terms of the evolution of how we thought about that first library and what's happening now. You could go back in time for the individuals who were in the first public library and see what's happening in our spaces today, from 3D printers to the internet to a whole array of services that go far beyond books. It's really impressive. And I think it only continues with all of the good work. I always felt like in my budget team in Salem, and frankly, our budget team in the state, we're up to our eyeballs in the state budget. When we start to talk about the library, everyone picks up like, okay, how can we do more to support this space? And the joke in Salem was, don't ever think about cutting the library. The mayor's going to say, what more can we do? And I think it's because of the type of work that's going on in buildings like this across the Commonwealth. And, I'm just heartened to know that each of you are here every day and across Massachusetts, making sure that we're doing all that we can to support the values that we hold near and dear. and the governor would be her herself. She's in Washington. A little role reversal going on, Congressman. She's in Washington with the National Governors Association, but wanted to make sure that I conveyed that, like, we have your back. We appreciate what you're doing every day. That's not just in words, it will be in action. We want to make sure we're being thoughtful partners at the state level and investing in what you mean to our communities, to the individuals that you're helping, that broad spectrum, in a way that ensures that we have, the best services and technologies available to our constituents. So wanted to be here to show our support, extend our gratitude, and make sure you know that we're going to be here for you over the next 4 years. And grateful to be a partner in this effort and working with all of you. And just in closing, want to say thank you to Worcester. It's always great to be with Mayor Petty, City Manager Batista, Senator Kennedy, former Senator Chandler, and certainly you, Congressman McGovern, who do so much, not just for this region, but for our entire Commonwealth. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to move on to the section of our program with our state delegation. I'm very excited that in this room, and as been mentioned before, we have both Senator Harriet Chandler in the audience, who's helped create the Worcester Talking Book Library, has created so many programs. And we also have her successor in this room, Senator Robin Kennedy. I was so excited and truly honored when I met Senator Kennedy. She came up to me and she said, "I know who you are, you're Jason." And that speaks to her commitment to knowing her community. And I'm so excited to welcome her here to her first legislative breakfast at the Worcester Public Library.
Thank you so much for that, Jason, and thank you to your entire team here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't specifically thank your team for being so kind and welcoming to my mom in particular, who I think strives to be your #1 customer. So I never warms my heart every time I hear, "Please tell your mom I said hello." And I know it warms hers as well. So thank you so much for that. And I'm so grateful to join my colleagues here in the state delegation. I'm so fortunate to be walking into this seat, to be joining such a strong delegation that is committed to collectively as a team, delivering resources back to our community, not only for our libraries, but for other critical services in our communities, making sure that we are standing as a delegation to ensure that there's regional equity in services such as transportation, so that we can continue to have fair, free WRTA services here in Worcester, so we can make sure that members of our community can not only move about our community, but can get to the library as well. And I'm excited to join you all here today in this beautiful new space that weaves knowledge, family, technology, and community into every aspect of the library's experience. I also appreciate the opportunity to join you here as the new senator from the 1st Worcester District. And I'm always grateful to be in space with my predecessor, Senator Chandler, continue to learn from her wisdom. And like so many groups and organizations that I speak with, I appreciate that you are concerned to know that you might have lost a champion in the Senate. And so I'm grateful to be able to be here with you today so early on in my time in the legislature, to demonstrate my commitment to you and to our libraries across the state. The library has always been a place in our community to find wisdom, imagination, safety among the works of our greatest writers, but it's also been a place of gathering between friends who want to catch up, students studying for an exam, families finding comfort in watching their children play, learn, and grow, an opportunity for citizens to amplify their voice through their votes. And as your former neighbor at the YWCA and the community partner, I also appreciate the service that you have always provided to making sure that our most vulnerable members in our community have a safe space to be warm in the winter, cool down in the summer, and be able to access the bathroom and other facilities that are often lacking in other parts of the community. I know that the Worcester Public Library will continue to be a staple in our community for generations to come. And I know that as your elected officials, you need us to continue to show up to provide resources and support. As an advocate for early education and deep admirer of early education educators, I applaud your new play space and the children's room for it reiterating the concepts of imagination through play, learning on new age interfaces, and with programming intended to expand the mind of our growing future leaders. But we also must be deliberate to ensure that every child sees that path to leadership. And I know that the library is a space that can provide accessible, equitable tools to ensure a brighter future for every child in our community. And as has been acknowledged, and certainly want to reiterate, in a time when we are continuously forced to protect our freedom from censorship, I stand alongside the mission of the Worcester Public Library to build an understanding and ensure that everyone sees themselves reflected in your collections and services. Representation matters in all areas of life, and the content of our books are no exception. And as the libraries and librarians are forced onto the front lines of culture wars, mainly targeting our LGBTQIA community and books that focus on race and racism, know that we, as your elected officials, stand with you. When our community is reflected, our entire community is empowered. In the coming months, I look forward to working with the Worcester Public Library, with my colleagues in the delegation, with our city partners and with congressmen and McGovern, to make sure that you have the tools you need to continue the positive impact you have on our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Kiffey. Next to the stage, I also have a small anecdote of our next Senator, Ann Goby. Ann came to the CMLA trivia night a couple months ago and was very put off by the fact I asked a lot of library trivia, and she said that I was cheating. So I'm surprised she's here, but I'm truly thankful that she is. Welcome to the podium, Senator Goby.
I didn't think he was cheating. I knew he was. Well, you tell me when one of the categories is highlights of the Dewey Decimal System. Who does that? It's close though. It's close. It's wonderful to be here with all of you, and always good to see our good friend Senator Chandler. And thank you for all the work that you had done for libraries. You absolutely set a path for us to follow, and we really appreciate that. And the rest of my colleagues, and wonderful to see the Lieutenant Governor and the investments that we know that the Healy Driscoll administration is going to make all across the state. This is an exciting time to be in legislative office, to be in the Commonwealth. It's an exciting time. I think this is also, when you were mentioning about your card, I have my card too, my library card. I grew up in Spencer, and so this is from Richard Sugden Library. I didn't just notice on it though, this had an expiration date of 1968. So I'm figure out, I think I got my card when I was 5 or 6 years old. Anyway, we won't get into that. But time flies, doesn't it? But you know what the congressman said is so true. For me and so many other kids, you know, growing up in Spencer, my dad had a little 2-bay garage. I was one of 6 kids. We didn't take a lot of vacations, as you can imagine. My mother was home with all of us. And because he had his own business, it was very rare that we ever took vacations. But for me, with this card and going down to the Richard Sugden Library, that was a vacation. You know, I was never going to go to an opera, but I could we had phonographs back then, by the way, it wasn't CDs, and you could listen to music. I could grab a book, you know, I've always had a bit of wanderlust in my blood, and to read about these exotic places. And so, you know, it gives hope to kids and imagination. There's absolutely, and this beautiful building that you're in, and I think we know that when you go across the Commonwealth, and I know this is something the Lieutenant Governor knows well too, they don't all look like this, do they? You know, there's a lot of very, very old buildings, and they need to be updated. And I know that that's going to be a big part as we're going into this next legislative session to talk about that, to make sure that when we talk about accessibility, that we're really talking about accessibility. You know, we've got some of these old libraries where there's second floors that you can't get to, that they can't basically use anymore, you know, and to try to figure out ways to put that wonderful material somewhere else to make it accessible. So there's a lot that we have to look at. I know that we have a pretty aggressive legislative agenda that you have for us, and I know that we will do our best as we go into this exciting time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Gopi. I will, and thank you for the very first plug of our legislative agenda. All of you have on your seats a folder. Inside that folder is all of the information on the right-hand side about our legislative agenda this year for the MBLC. And I'm sure that our Commissioner Biancolo will talk more about that in a moment. I also want to acknowledge that while Senator Moore could not make it, we do have a representative from Senator Moore's office here, and thank you for coming today. Next, I want to welcome Representative Daniel Donahue.
Morning, and thank you, Jason, and thank you to your wonderful staff. It's wonderful to be here on, I guess, a spring morning in February. Walking outside was incredible, so maybe we should be checking some books on global warming in this library soon enough. But I'm very, very excited to be here. You know, as a delegation, we get invited to a lot of legislative breakfasts for all kinds of different organizations. But it's always special to me to come to the library. Because having grown up in the city of Worcester, I could see so many of my personal connections throughout my life here in the library. You know, starting at in the children's sections and story times, moving through, kept thinking about studying for the SATs. I used to get dropped off after high school to study for the SATs up on the second floor, back when it was a less inviting brutalist architecture group, if I remember correctly. But everyone has a personal connection to this building who grew up in the city of Worcester. And it's so wonderful to be here and to see that, you know, if you look around, we have the Lieutenant Governor, our Congressman, our delegation. People care about the library. People are here. Not such a strong group of elected officials will show up to just any event. So we want to show you that we're here. We are supportive. And I just want to thank everyone in the audience too, from the staff of the library to the friends to the board. Thank you for your advocacy. I know I've had the opportunity to hear from many of you over my career about the importance of the library, helping us to understand exactly what's happening on the ground as important. I know I was here a couple of years ago for the Talking Book library, and I got to go into the bowels. I think we went through that staircase downstairs into the bowels. It was like a Reading Rainbow episode to kind of see what the back end of a library looks like. But that helps us, it informs us in our legislative work, what the challenges you're facing and what we can do to support you. And you know, so much has been said about libraries, but when I really think about this building in particular in the city of Worcester, you know, the library it's filled with books like a library should be, but realistically, this is a community center. This is a building that helps to support our community. It empowers our community, and it's so important to so much of everyone's daily life. So thank you for empowering our community. Thank you for sharing your work, and we appreciate your advocacy, and we're here to help. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to welcome Representative Mary Keefe.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm not going to speak for too long because people have said such wonderful things. Usually I get up here and I credit the Worcester Public Library for my sanity. Okay, so raising 3 children in the city, this was a terrifically important place. Okay, once a week at least. We would come to the library and we would see lots of people as well as looking at our books, right? So it was a social event, it was a public event for my kids and for myself, and I really appreciate what that was in our lives. But I walked in today and here on the front of our folder was the saying "You belong here," right? And I was thinking coming down here is like, that's what it is. You belong here. And as the Lieutenant Governor said, the great equalizer, and the Congressman said, the democratizer. So this is what we do for each other, right? We invest in these public places, important places where we can share
what's great around our society, the gifts that we have, the benefits that we have, that we can bring together people to share those things and to be better because of it. So I think of public transportation, public housing, public parks, public gardens, even public restrooms, as was mentioned. So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for my safety. Thank you for my family, from my family. Thank you for the city of Worcester and everything that you are and continue to be. And thank you, Jason, for the creativeness that you continue to bring to this place and what we need. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I would like to welcome Representative David LeBeau.
No, that's right. No, thank you everyone for having me here. And I promise Jason didn't have to twist my arm to be here. It actually went to the Lieutenant Governor making sure she was whipping some votes for a couple of amendments down that supplemental budget. So I think we've come to a consensus on how we're getting that bill's gonna go. But no, I really want to thank just really want to thank everyone for being here and supporting such a wonderful institution. You know, just seeing the evolution of the library from my time, you know, when I was a child, you know, in high school, middle school, elementary school, and just seeing the digitization and how that's really opened up the library to populations that are of a younger generation. You know, I think of the Libby app and the fact that, you know, I was actually out in Georgia working on a campaign and was able to download an audiobook, you know, as I was walking between sites and being able to access that. The language learning software that is complementary is so valuable, not only to just cultural enrichment, but also to our workforce. You know, I've had some of my staff, you know, making sure that they could get some basic vocabulary as we're dealing with different constituent needs. And also, in addition to this beautiful building that we have here and the amazing technology, are satellite bridges. You know, in my district, the Goddard Bridge really was savior during COVID, in addition to being a nice refuge, in addition to a great partnership in a neighborhood that really deserves every type of quality of public resources that any other zip code does. Having that programming, having that way to help children learn with their homework when they were struggling, getting on board with remote learning when they're having those challenges, and recognizing that the investment in a library isn't an investment just in a book. It's not an investment in the building. It's an investment in a future, and it's really an economic driver, because the return on investment we get for what we invest here only makes life just a lot better for our workforce, for our families, and for our children's future. I do want to make a comment that Representative O'Day did intend to be here. He's kind of running late. There was an obligation that came up in his district last moment, and I know he also expressed his support for the branch libraries and the work that goes on in Great Brook Valley. And so just also want to thank the friends of the library in addition to the staff. So Rosemary, who's my constituent, I want to thank you for all your work that you're doing, because without the public support of these institutions, you know, we see it from the policy end, but being the ones that are evangelizing the library and keeping this going and building that partnership is great. So thank you very much. And since we're all doing the library card thing, I do want to let Senator Goby know you can actually upgrade to a keychain. So maybe we can set that up. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the plug for a keychain. I appreciate it. It's like I feel so grateful to have so many amazing representatives, senators, and other federal and local officials here today, because it's the talking points each of them have come to the library with. We're not given, these are what they're thinking, and it's so exciting to be able to be in a space, in a state, in a community, in a commonwealth that really values its libraries. So I did also want to acknowledge that Representative O'Day was planning on being here, but ain't able to make it, and we appreciate his continued support in public libraries. the Worcester Public Library is not alone in this. We have 300 and some odd other libraries. I'll look at Sarah to give me that real number when she comes up. That is also here working. And in particular, there is a group of us that's pretty much Marlborough to New York that constitute the CW Mars Library Network. That is how you loan things. And many of my fellow directors here today, and I appreciate you all for being here and all of the work that you did during the pandemic, after, well, not after, still during the pandemic, figuring out how to deliver library services. I was just reflecting the other day with some staff on the first 2 weeks and thinking about, would we ever be able to lend a book again? And we proved that the staff don't like to badge in, and we proved that we could do it, and we could do it better than any other discipline, organization, than anyone else. So I really appreciate it. And so on behalf of CW Mars, I would like to welcome Jeanette Lindgren to the stage to tell us a little bit about some of the legislative agenda today.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. But thank you for inviting me here today to talk about CW Mars and what our libraries are doing. Hopefully, most of you know now that CW Mars is a library consortium. We are now serving 158 member libraries in central and western Massachusetts. Our mission is to promote the sharing of library resources through technology. And today, I'd like to just take a few minutes to talk about the importance of line 9506, which is on your sheet, and which is the line that funds technology and automated resource sharing for the network. CW Mars connects libraries to over 9 million items that are held in our shared catalog. And over the past 3 years, we've onboarded 12 new members. This year, we welcomed Hinsdale, Middlefield, and our newest library, Huntington. CW Mars membership is affordable thanks to line 9506, which helps offset membership costs, particularly for our smaller libraries. Membership in CW Mars provides technology support to libraries for our shared library software, online catalog, internet access, IT and technology, help desk services, and more. CW Mars also promotes digital equity by providing internet connectivity, equipment, and support to 103 of our member libraries, enabling them to provide internet and Wi-Fi to their communities. Last year, we rolled out an electronic library card, the CW Mars e-card, to allow patrons without a library card to sign up online and access their library's electronic content. In 2022, over 6,500 new patrons registered for a CW Mars e-card and connected with their library. In 2022, we also reached a record-breaking 2 million checkouts of digital materials. We believe that patrons have the right to read in the format that works best for them. E-content makes reading more accessible, especially for patrons with mobility challenges, learning disabilities like dyslexia. With school literacy screening regulations going into effect this summer, public libraries should be poised to help meet the need for more reading materials in audiobook and narration format. But despite our library spending $1.3 million on e-content, our wait time for popular titles can be close to 2 months. The cost of an audiobook for libraries is often double that of an ebook. We continue to struggle with high pricing, access to titles, and restrictive publisher licenses, which often need to be repurchased because they expire and there's still so much patron demand. We're concerned about digital format preservation. We're limited by our budget and cost and the amount of content that we can provide. We've been partnering to advocate for more equitable access and pricing for libraries. And line 9506 helps fund telecommunications, resource sharing, e-cards, and shared ebook and audiobook content. CW Mars libraries also recognize that overdue fines present an economic barrier to the access of library materials and can be a form of social inequity. In September, our member libraries voted to go fine-free as a network.
Any new library that joins CW Mars must not charge overdue fines for their patrons. All of our current members are working towards eliminating their overdue fines. As of today, 140 of our members, or 89% of CW Mars, do not charge overdue fines. And for a reference point, we were at 67% last year at this time. And finally, CW Mars is focused on data privacy and security. Ransomware and cyber extortion continue to be among the top cyber threats in 2023. CW Mars has strategic priorities around strengthening our practices to better protect patron privacy and the security of patron data across our network. We've increased our cybersecurity insurance. We've worked as a consultant to audit our privacy policies. We've formed a privacy task force to start implementing the audit recommendations. We've written security incident response plans. We've provided internal staff training and certifications. We've also moved our physical hardware to a cloud-hosted provider who has advanced security certifications and also offers redundant offsite backups. We are planning for when and not if a cyber attack occurs. And we are relying on state funding to help us train and prepare all of the staff at our 183 branch locations who have access to our library software and data. These are just a few highlights of what CW Mars and our libraries have been working on and how we were relying on line 9506 funding for the future and for all of these important endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. And also, I'm so excited to hear the fine-free statistic. It would be amazing if the Commonwealth was the first state in the country to be a fine-free state. And we need the support to help us get there. That is my tee up for one of our Board of Library Commissioners, Vicki Biancolo. Come on up.
Good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone. As has been noted, it's nice to be here in 3D. I mean, we were last year too, which is great, on this beautiful spring day. So I am, as you heard, as Jason said, I am Vicki Biancolo. I'm a commissioner on the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, liaison to the Central Mass Library Advocates, and director of the Worcester Academy Library. And I am clearly in the wrong seat over here because this is our powerful and supportive delegation area. And one of these things is not like the other, just saying. So, but I do want to thank Jason and the Worcester Public Library, the Central Mass Library Advocates, the Massachusetts Library System, Massachusetts Library Association Legislative Committee, for hosting and inviting me to speak today. I also want to take a moment to thank the trustees, staff, friends of libraries who do the hard work every day. I see you all out there, and legislators and local officials who took the time to be here. And I feel a little odd actually with my back to you all. So please know that I am actually talking to everybody in the room. I think as everybody is. So anyway. So I also, I'd like to introduce a couple of people in the audience to you in case you have questions. So I'd like to point out Debbie Conrad, who is the current chair of the Massachusetts Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. And next to her is Rob Pavini, who's the head of Library Advisory and Development. Maura Didi is out there somewhere. There she is, who is the Library Advisory Specialist. And Andrea Bono Bunker, if you have questions about construction, she's in the back. Afterwards, please talk to them if you have any questions. So, and a quick word about me. So last year at this podium, which was the other end of this room, I had shared that I just moved to Worcester from the western part of the state. And so now I've been here for about a year and a half. And in that time, I have been to Polar Park. I've played disc golf badly at Newton Hill. I've strolled through the Worcester Art Museum, and I've spent time in this beautiful building. And I will also share that when I can get to any one of those places without my GPS, I will feel truly at home. That hasn't happened yet. Maybe next time. But one thing I've also learned is actually in this year is how supportive our legislative delegation has been to libraries. And so I want to thank you all so very much for being there supporting libraries. So thank you so much. I'm here today. I've been asked to review the fiscal year 2024 legislative agenda. Release pen. But before I go into specifics, I thought it might be helpful to provide a quick overview of how the annual agenda is achieved. So the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners is the state agency with the responsibility to organize, develop, and improve library services throughout the Commonwealth. And it does so through direct grants and working with partners such as the Massachusetts Library System, Sarah's right there, the Library for the Commonwealth at Boston Public Library, where you can get an e-card. Speaking of library cards, the Perkins and Worcester Talking Book programs, the 9 resource sharing networks. As you heard, you can get an e-card from CW Mars, and the Massachusetts Center for the Book, all of which receive funds through the board's budgetary line items. The legislative agenda is developed with the input of these partners and highlights policy and funding priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. And this year, well, it always aligns with the board's mission and long-range plan. This year in particular, it does actually focus on equity and inclusion. Before I talk about this coming agenda, I'd like to talk about in the last or this current fiscal year, MBLC dollars, well, funded through MBSL dollars have funded construction and renovation grants, over 13,000 learning hours for librarians across the Commonwealth, negotiated cooperative purchasing, which has saved libraries over $13.5 million, almost 80,000 children registered for summer reading programs, 170,000 people attending in-person events, over 1 million ebook circulations from the K-12 collection. Am I stealing your thunder?
It's cool.
Okay.
We'll do it twice.
Okay, we'll do it twice. Over 1 million ebook circulations from the K-12 collection, which is #1 in New England, #3 in the world. Right? Over 7.1 million full text articles viewed in the MBLC funded online databases, which is 2 million more than last year. And over 11.3 million items delivered via statewide delivery, that's interlibrary loan, which is 3 million more than last year. So library use is increasing. So on the legislative agenda, which I know you have that in your packet, ensuring your right to read, initiatives this year include ebook legislation, freedom from censorship, digital equity through automated networks, accessibility for all. And so the funding priorities in this legislative agenda ask specifically for increased support for services to underserved residents. Namely 7,9402, which is the Worcester Talking Book Program, 9406, which is the Perkins Talking Book Program, and 9506, Technology and Automated Research Sharing, as you heard from Jeanette. Currently, there are more than 780,000 people with disabilities living in Massachusetts. And of these, thousands are unable to read print materials due to a visual, physical, or reading disability. Extra funding to the Worcester and Perkins Talking Book programs will allow the delivery of state-of-the-art library services directly to these residents who need and deserve our support. Did you know that, maybe you do know this, that 4 in 10 adults in the Commonwealth do not have home broadband, 4 in 10, and rely on their local library for access? Fully funding an increase in technology and resource sharing will allow the board to continue realizing the goal of making internet and community Wi-Fi access reliable and affordable for all residents. Thousands of internet sessions take place every year on library computers or on library-provided hotspots, and these funds will be used to make sure that these services can continue and expand. This line also provides grants to libraries located in communities with a population of 10,000 and under, ensuring our residents in the smallest towns have access to the full suite of electronic services and information. And those are towns from Westminster to Hardwick in this area. The funding will be used to develop cybersecurity protocols and systems to forestall cyber attacks and protect the privacy of patrons as required by Massachusetts general law. It'll also allow libraries to increase ebook and audiobook offerings. And as an aside to our legislators, please consider co-sponsoring or supporting HD 3425, which is Representative Ruth Balzer's effort to regulate unfair ebook pricing and lending practices. This new bill, her new bill, focuses on consumer protections for libraries. So we are asking for increases in our other, we are asking for increases in our other line items that will simply allow us to keep pace with inflation. The board's overall budget represents approximately 0.07% of the state budget. And over 90% of our funding goes directly to programs that serve residents. It's a great deal, great deal. And as you consider, please remember that access to libraries and reliable information is a social justice issue that has been noted. And finally, on February 1st, the MBLC formally approved a new $150 million grant round for public library construction, renovation, and expansion. For libraries, I want you to note that the regulations have a new streamlined application process that is not only easier, but it's much less expensive. So if you're thinking about it, maybe this is your year. And to the legislators, we are requesting the annual cap increase by $1 million annually to keep pace with escalation. And if you've tried to build or renovate anything in your home recently, you know why. That's not a surprise to you that we need an increase. So Congressman McGovern said it better, but because I am a librarian, I would like to leave you with a quotation with words from somebody else. So these are from David McCullough, Ellicott Sheffrat. Freedom is found through the portals of our nation's libraries. And indeed, democracy depends on an informed population. And where can people get all the information they need? At the library. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am very excited that although we had mentioned Representative O'Day earlier that he was busy in the district, he quickly got over to the Worcester Public Library. So I just give the stage to him for a moment and welcome and thank you for coming.
Yeah. Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry that I'm late. I apologize for that. There were a few other things going on today, but as I was walking in the door, I said, wow, this is going to be the first time I've done at the event without my former colleague, Senator Chandler, being here, but how foolish of me. I knew she'd be here. I knew she'd be here because she's such a supporter of libraries. And of course, I'm thrilled to be here with my new colleague, Senator Kennedy, but it's great to be with all of you today. I'm looking in the audience. I don't know whether the Beaman Library from West Boylston is it. Hello. So obviously, I'm happy to be here. I love libraries. My father was a much more avid reader than I ever was, unfortunately. But he spent a tremendous amount of time here, both reading in the library and then also bringing books home for himself to read. It wouldn't matter what time of night I might have come in 10, no, sometimes late. He would be in his chair, reading some wonderful book, mostly around history stuff, but and he always complimented the Worcester Public Library. So I hope to have been a similar fan of the libraries in my time in the State House. You folks do tremendous work. You welcome people to our communities from all around the world. And this is a place that we know they can come and feel safe and find out what they need to learn about their communities. And it helps make our community stronger. So with that said, thank you for giving me the opportunity to say good morning. And again, I apologize for being late. Thank you.
No apologies necessary. We're truly honored to have you here. Next, I'd like to welcome Sarah Sagigian, our Executive Director for the Mass Library System.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jason. I will start my remarks with a response to your question about how many public libraries there are in the state. Anyone else know? Yeah, well, 369. 69. That means that some of the communities in the state have more than one, and some, very few, don't have any. But good morning. My name is Sarah Sagigian. I'm the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Library System, or MLS, as you hear me refer to it. Thank you to our library staff at each one, and I'm going to totally screw up just my past remarks, at each one of our 1,400 member libraries across Massachusetts. MLS is just so proud to support your work. We are a multi-type state-supported library system, so we serve libraries, public, academic, special, and school. That's where that 1,400 number comes from. MLS member libraries can access critical services that support and enhance the local work being done in communities, often at no direct cost to the library or library users. The Mass Library System's priority is about equity. We are a state-supported nonprofit funded by line 709401. We know firsthand that library funding comes from lots of different places, from funding in community budgets to donations raised by library support groups. State aid to public libraries means local aid to libraries, and that is more important than ever. MLS supports the MBLC legislative agenda. We understand that every library in the state benefits from the sharing of resources. Our statewide delivery program continues to provide the backbone of resource sharing across the state. From Williamstown to Oak Bluffs, Methuen to Agawam, and everywhere in between, we connect patrons to books, audiobooks, videos, and more from around the state and world from their local library. In fiscal 22, we delivered well over 11 million items and are already seeing and expecting this number to go even higher in fiscal 23. This work would not be possible without the strong support from our automated networks like CW Mart, who provide the technological infrastructure to connect our libraries across the state. Partnering with the Board of Library Commissioners, we provide a suite of databases and e-content. Our Commonwealth eBook collection offers an ever-growing, robust collection of rich and diverse titles to help support the 550 plus K-12 school libraries that participate in this program. And thank you, Vicki, for highlighting this amazing feat, because I'm pretty proud of it. We are all very proud of it. The program currently ranks first in New England, second in the US, and third in the world for total circulation for K-12 share. This success would not be possible without our school members having an integrated library program staffed by certified school library teachers whose expertise ensures collections, programs, and instructions provide opportunities for all students and faculty to learn and succeed. And to help them with this and all of our libraries, we offer a training and consulting program, which continues to help all libraries become future ready, addressing the critical topics for today and tomorrow. Our thousands of learning hours cover topics like summer literacy programs, workforce development, intellectual freedom topics, and community engagement. So in closing, I'd like to thank all of you who have advocated for MLS services, and to the Massachusetts legislators who have recognized the critical work our network partners, libraries, and MLS provide by voting for increased funding for all of the library budget lines. And a final thank you to the support groups today, Jason and Cara and Worcester, for hosting this awesome event. Thank you.
I'm going to take one more deviation from her, and then we only have 2 speakers left, so bear with us. But I am going to mention that we have a lot of our local senators and representatives, so we can possibly do a vote now. I don't know. But I'm so excited to have Senator Moore join us as well, and to add to that, some of our representatives and senators will be leaving relatively soon to go use a library meeting space to do a Zoom call. And if that isn't the best plug for space, I don't know what. Welcome up, Senator Moore.
So we want to go over 200-year history of libraries.
Yes.
Just want to thank everyone coming. I think we all know how great the libraries are and the services that they provide. I think back to when I was on the board of selectmen in town of Millbury, and my kids were very young. And I think a lot of people don't realize the services that they provide. We would have our children would go into daycare, and they would actually take the children down to the library and utilize that. The services that they provide there. It's great resources for families. We look back to the educational values that we provide our communities. It's such an important investment that we make. And I just want to thank the libraries for the Library Association for everything that they do. And I want to thank you all for being here. And I think you can tell by the amount of legislators that are here, the support that the library has from the Worcester delegation. So thank you. It's great seeing you all.
Thank you very much, Senator. Our batting cleanup for us is Eileen Dyer from Massachusetts Library Association.
The challenge is to summarize and be quick. Thank you, everybody. So nice to see you. My name is Eileen Dyer, and I am honored to be here representing the Massachusetts Library Association, or MLA, the Massachusetts School Library Association, MSLA, and the MLA Legislative Committee. I'd also like to thank MLA Presidents Tim Hewitt, MLSA Outreach Director Debbie Brockett, and my co-chair Will Adamczyk for their support. To all library advocates here, thank you. And especially to the Massachusetts legislators here, thank you for all you do provide. The libraries of the Commonwealth. This year, the MDLC will be able to award $16 million in state aid to 347 municipalities in the Commonwealth that participated in the state aid program this year, the highest figure in its 133-year history. MLA, by its legislative committee, works closely with the MDLC to support their legislative agenda. And it is not surprising that their overarching priority, ensuring the right to read, aligns perfectly with our legislative efforts this session. First is support the legislative agenda as described very nicely by Commissioner Biancolo. I will just touch on that. As mentioned, the agenda theme this year is ensuring the right to read, which prioritizes 3 lines of additional funding. 2 are for the talking book libraries of Worcester here and the Perkins Library, and the other is technology and resource sharing line that supports the Commonwealth's 9 automated networks, which you've heard about. MBLC's agenda, it also focuses on freedom from censorship, unfair ebook pricing and practices, and cybersecurity, also as mentioned. Second, MLA has continued to work with fellow stakeholders and with Library Champion Representative Ruth Balzer on creating language for a new bill that will address ebooks and libraries as related to Massachusetts consumer protection law. We are thrilled to announce that Rep. Balzer has introduced, as mentioned, HG 3425, an act empowering library access to electronic books and digital audiobooks. Local legislators, if you might be interested in co-sponsoring the bill, please reach out to Rep. Balzer's team or Will or I for more information. Third, MLA Legislative Committee and the Massachusetts School Library Association are working with our partners in MLA's Intellectual Freedom and Social Responsibilities Committee, IFSRC, to address the increasing number of challenges to libraries and library workers. IFSLC is leading this way on this, and the Legislative Committee is also having conversations about when and if any sort of legislative efforts to create further protections for workers and libraries in the future. Fourth, our colleagues in the school libraries, MSLA, they are focusing on the Digital Equity Act sponsored by Senator Ed Markey. Members have met with the senator's team to discuss his Success Act. I don't know if it has been reintroduced in this session yet in Congress. That is for the securing universal communications connectivity to ensure students succeed. This act would help with the growth of school libraries in the Commonwealth and in nationwide. And MSLA also continues to work with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, known as DESE, in the work in securing a certified school librarian teacher in every public school in the Commonwealth. Fifth, I'm especially happy to announce that we library advocates will be returning to the State House this year for Library Legislative Day on Wednesday, March 15th. There will also be a virtual day offering on March 8th, should you not be able to make the in-person event. And we do hope to see all of you who can make it at one of those events. So in closing, and as it is budget season, I'd like to reiterate the request for MDLC's priority budget lines. They're all important, but these are the ones that we're focusing on, especially this year. First, again, digital equity through the networks. This is a 30% increase. It's around $1.4 million. And we remind you that access to reliable internet is an issue of economic, educational, and social equity. The second and third priority lines, as mentioned, are accessibility for all, the Perkins and Worcester Talking Book Library lines. The Perkins 9406, again, we're asking for a 30% increase, which is $890,000. And Worcester 9402, an increase of 30% as well at $156,000, with more than 780,000 people with these sorts of disabilities living in Massachusetts, expanding services to everyone. Library services is a priority. So thank you for your continued support of libraries. This funding translates to a direct support to your constituents in the form of library staff, a vast array of resources, community events, and meeting spaces. Please continue to support your communities by supporting the libraries. Thank you. And introduce and thanks once again our host extraordinaire, Jason Hillman.
Thank you very much. I think about the work of us as librarians. I sit on an MBLC PR committee, MLA's legislative committee. I'm a board member of CMLA. And that is just part of the resume that each of the librarians that you interface with every day has. Every day, staff in libraries all over the state go above and beyond, and that is the normal. But we cannot continue to do more with less. And so we appreciate everyone for coming out today. We acknowledge the fact that we have run a little bit over, and so we know a few people will have to bustle quickly out. But if you have a little time, I encourage you to check out the Buck O'Neill display behind me. This is a display that comes all the way from Kansas City, Missouri, from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about what a talking book library is, there is some materials over there on that red table, as well as you'll be actively walking out towards the talking book library. It is the last room on the left before you get to the lobby area. So thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Thank you, MBLC, MLA, MLS, MSLA, all of the acronyms. A special thank you to my board who helped provide the funding for this morning, the Friends of the Worcester Public Library who continue to be some of our most amazing grassroots organizers and friends throughout the Commonwealth that do that work in every community in which we occupy, and especially our Worcester Public Library Foundation. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you all for if not, it'll go to the staff, which is good. We do get copies.
Hey, thank you.